The Anunnaki were a group of deities worshipped in ancient Mesopotamia. The Ancient Astronaut Theory claims that the Anunnaki were actually extraterrestrial beings who came to Earth in the past and enslaved humans. The oldest of them is said to be Enlil, the god of air and wind. He was one of the most important and powerful gods in the Mesopotamian mythology. One Sumerian poem even says that he was so holy that not even the other gods could look upon him. But what's his story? What connection does he have with gods from other mythologies like Zeus? Was he the one who caused the Great Flood which wiped out the entire human race? In today's video, we are going to learn more about Enlil and his part in the Mesopotamian mythology. So make sure to watch it till the end. And if you haven't already, go hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon, so you won't miss any of my new videos. Enlil was the Sumerian god of air in the Mesopotamian pantheon. He is also associated with wind, the earth, and storms. The Sumerians are considered to be one of the oldest civilizations to have a pantheon of deities or gods. Enlil was not only worshipped by them, but also by the Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians, and Hurrians later in time. While he was known to the Sumerians as Enlil, the Akkadians called him Enlil and Ninlil. He was primarily worshipped at the Ekkur Temple in the ancient Sumerian city of Nippur. The Ekkur Temple was believed to have been built by Enlil himself, and the name of this temple literally means mountain house in ancient Sumerian. It was also seen as a channel of communication between heaven and earth. Enlil was seen as a king of heaven and earth. All the rulers in Sumer had to travel to the city of Nippur and visit the Ekkur Temple to be legitimized. The temple flourished with the donations of lands and precious objects of various kings. With the city's advancement, the cult of Enlil grew bigger and bigger, but when it was sacked by the Elamites in 1230 BC, the cult slowly declined and Enlil was eventually supplanted as the chief god of the Mesopotamian pantheon by the Babylonian national god Marduk. But even during the Babylonian period, the people never stopped honoring him. They called him Enlil. Many Babylonian kings still traveled to the holy city of Nippur to seek recognition of their right to rule. Before Enlil, the sky god Anu was seen as the chief god of the Mesopotamian pantheon. Enlil is Anu's son. He is credited for making the earth a perfect place for humans to live by separating En, the heaven, from Ki, the earth. Enlil is considered as the second most powerful Mesopotamian god next to his father, Anu. But sometimes he was seen as a god who was stronger than Anu himself. There was also a practice of invoking their names together in rituals. Enlil possessed the Tablets of Destiny, which contained the fates of gods and humanity. It gave him immense power and authority. In some inscriptions, he is mentioned as the father of the black-headed people, which refers to the Sumerians, and father of the gods. In his role as Lord Wind, Enlil was seen as the moist wind of spring but also the wind of a destructive storm. He was thus seen as a god with a two-sided nature. He was also credited with the creation of the hoe, a tool used in farming. The Sumerian flood story is one of the oldest flood stories in the world. It is also called Eratogenesis. But the causes of the flood are unclear because the portion of the tablet recording the beginning of the story has been destroyed. It explains how the Sumerian people were created by En, Enlil, Enki, and Ninhursag at the beginning. Ninhursag is the wife of Enki. Enki is the god of wisdom. The gods then created the animals and made them multiply on the plains. The first cities, Eridu, Badtibara, Shuruppak, Sippar, and Lirik were built and the kingship descended from heaven. The humans somehow upset the gods, but it is unclear what they did. As a result, the gods decided to send a flood to wipe out the peoples of the cities. The pious king Ziusudra gets warned about the coming deluge. Although it is unclear which god warned him, a tablet called the Skoyen fragment provides a clue that Ziusudra is a priest of the god Enki. From this little piece of information, we can make out that Enki was the one who probably warned him about the flood. Soon, massive windstorms and a great flood swept over the land. Everyone and everything was destroyed except for Ziusudra, who built an ark and sailed on it for 7 days and 7 nights. Then, Utu, the god of the sun, comes out. After seeing him, Ziusudra immediately prostrated before him and made a sacrifice. An ox and a sheep were killed by him in honor of Utu. After learning about Ziusudra's great escape, the mighty gods Anu and Enlil became angry. How did he manage to escape, they asked. Enki was later found guilty and the gods said, "We have made you swear by heaven and earth not to tell any human about the flood." Ziusudra, after seeing his savior getting scolded by the gods for helping him, prostrated himself before Anu and Enlil as a show of respect and hoped that the gods would be satisfied and forgive Enki. It worked, and the gods grant Ziusudra eternal life for having preserved the animals and seed of humankind, and also pardons Enki. The gods then settle Ziusudra in an overseas country, the land of Dilmun, where the sun rises east. In the later Akkadian version of the flood story, recorded in the Epic of Gilgamesh, Enlil was the one who caused the flood. In this story, Anu is referred to as the Lord of the Firmament, while Enlil is regarded as a warrior and counselor. And as a counselor, Enlil tells the gods that humans have been making too much noise and that it's so intolerable. So, he proposes that the gods can live peacefully only if all the humans are dead, and to kill them all, he comes up with the idea of sending a flood which is big enough to wipe out the entire human race. In this version of the story, the hero is Utnapishtim instead of Ziusudra. Like the previous version, he was warned by Ea, the Babylonian version of Enki, that a flood was coming. He instructs him to build a huge boat in order to survive the flood. The flood lasted for 7 days. The flood was Enlil's decision alone, and the other gods didn't fully agree with him. Ishtar, the goddess of love, mourned the destruction of humanity, and when it finally came to an end, she promised Utnapishtim that Enlil would never cause a flood again. When Enlil sees that Utnapishtim and his family have survived, he is outraged, but his son Ninurta speaks up in favor of humanity, arguing that, instead of causing floods, Enlil should simply ensure that humans never become overpopulated by reducing their numbers using wild animals and famines. Maybe Thanos was right.
If life is left unchecked, life will cease to exist. It needs correction.
You don't know that!
I'm the only one who knows that. At least I'm the only one with the will to act on it.
Like what Ziusudra did in the previous version of this story, Utnapishtim made a sacrifice to appease the gods. When Enlil entered his ship, he was so angry. But after seeing Utnapishtim's reverence, he becomes happy and grants Utnapishtim and his wife an immortal life at the ends of the world. Before the creation of human beings, young Enlil lived in the city of Nippur. Nippur was an urban center of the gods in this story and governed by divine law. There was a young beautiful goddess living in that city with the name of Ninlil. Enlil and Ninlil both got attracted to each other. Ninlil's mother, Nisaba, was the goddess of writing. She also acted as the scribe of the gods. One day when Ninlil wanted to go bathe in the river alone, Nisaba didn't allow her to go as she might attract Enlil there. But Ninlil carelessly went to the river to bathe and, like her mother thought, Enlil went there to seduce Ninlil. He then impregnates Ninlil with a son, and that son is the moon god Nana. Enlil soon went to Nisaba to ask for her daughter's hand in marriage. Afterwards, as Enlil is walking through the city, he is arrested by the other gods for being ritually impure and exiled from the city to Kor, the Sumerian underworld. Ninlil was also arrested and banished to the underworld. So she followed Enlil at some distance, going wherever he went. Enlil became aware of her stalking and cleverly crafted a plan. He told every keeper of the gates not to tell Ninlil where he went if she came to ask. Enlil soon disguised as a keeper. Ninlil went there and asked each and every keeper present about Enlil's location, but no one told her anything. She then finally asked Enlil, who was now disguised as a keeper of the gates. He also said that he didn't know. However, he later manages to seduce Ninlil and impregnates her with Nergal, the god of war and death. Enlil then took many forms, like Man of the River of the Netherworld and Man of the Boat, and the same scenario repeated. As a result, Ninazu, the god of the underworld, and Enlil, the god of canals were born. This is considered as a genealogical myth invented to explain the origins of the moon god Nana, as well as the various gods of the underworld. Even after all these seductions of Enlil, Ninlil still loved him and acted as his consort. In the poem, Ninlil declares, "As Enlil is your master, so am I also your mistress." This story is also considered to be the oldest story featuring a shape-shifting god. Enlil shares a lot of similarities with the Greek god Zeus. Both of them are storm gods who took many forms to deceive and impregnate women. In the Greek mythology, Zeus was the one who caused the Great Flood like Enlil in the Mesopotamian myths. A badly damaged text from the Neo-Assyrian period describes Marduk leading his army of Anunnaki into the sacred city of Nippur and causing a disturbance. The disturbance caused a flood. The gods who resided in Nippur were all frightened by the flood. So their leader, Enlil, took them all to the Eshemesha temple, a temple dedicated to the god Ninurta, to take shelter. Enlil was so angry at Marduk and the Anunnaki, so he ordered the gods under his leadership to take them as prisoners. After a long fight, the Anunnaki were finally defeated and captured. Marduk appoints his frontrunner Mushtashurblam to lead a revolt against the enemy gods and sends his messenger to alert Nabu, the god of literacy. Nabu started speaking and all the goods who took shelter in the Eshemesha temple came out to search for him. As soon as they stepped out of the temple, Marduk attacked them all and managed to defeat them. He took 360 of them as prisoners of war, including Enlil himself. All of them are soon to be killed, but Enlil protests that the gods are innocent. So Marduk puts them on trial before the Anunnaki. The text ends with a warning from the mother goddess, Ninhursag, to the gods and to humanity, pleading them not to repeat the war between the Anunnaki and the gods of Eshemesha. If you want to learn more about the Anunnaki gods or the chief god Anu, I've already made separate videos about them. Tap the I button and check him out. Enlil was credited with the invention of mattock, a hand tool used for digging. It was made of pure gold and its head is carved from lapis lazuli. Enlil gave it to humans and they used it to build great cities and grow plants. In the late 7th century BC, the Assyrian Empire had fallen and the worship of Enlil also fell with it. All his temples were looted and his statues destroyed. But Enlil still survived under the name of Marduk, who possessed most of his qualities. In 141 BC, people totally forgot about Enlil and the worship of Marduk also declined. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, tap the thumbs up icon and share this video. Hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell icon. I will see you again in a new video with a new topic to explain. Thanks for watching.